Army in 1946 before the World War II was officially declared over. The fighting had stopped all but some holdouts in different places. And 82nd Airborne. I spent most of my Army career in the paratroops. Served in a lot of airborne units, but in the Korean War, I got to Japan. I was in the occupation of Japan during the start of the Korean War, and my brother got killed, so I volunteered to go to Korea. And they sent me to the 2nd Infantry Division, which was, by the time it was over, was the highest casualty unit of the Korean War. At a place called Kunari, just my unit, and we were pretty bad shot up, got hit by 130,000 Chinese. Ended up running a 7-mile roadblock with the Chinese running on both sides of the road. Give you an idea there. That day we lost 5,000 men. But that was the kind of thing you had to deal with. I was assigned different assignments going out behind enemy lines all the time. Day before Christmas 1951, I went out with 73 men in a deep penetration. 6 of us got back alive, and I was the only one who wasn't wounded. And we swam down the middle of a river with the Chinese running down both banks, throwing hand grenades at us and shooting at us with a submachine gun. There were 20-some men that got into the river. 6 of us got out. They were badly banged up, all but me. And I was the only one left who was still fighting. 18 days later, I was assigned as a fort observer, which I always was anyhow, to go out on what we call a raiding party. I went to the briefing, and it wasn't much of a raiding party. It was a raiding party in broad daylight, and the mountain we were going to hit, there was 100 reinforced rifle company, 170 of us, and they had 1 battalion on top of the mountain, dug in, and they reinforced with 2 more battalions. We shot them up pretty bad before they got to us. In my company that day, we had 90 men killed, 12 missing in action, and 68 wounded. Every man was killed, wounded, or missing. When it was starting to get over, I picked 4 wounded men, and I'd been wounded twice that day. And I picked 4 wounded men to get in this hole with me. We grabbed some sandbags and put it in front of us there. There was a shell hole. We tried to bunker it in a little bit. And we held off hundreds of Chinese, while the rest of our walking wounded was dragging the dead and wounded down the mountain. We got them all out, but 12 we couldn't find. When we got down to about 35 men, I called back to my regimental commander, and I gave him a situation report and told him, we were about out of ammunition and had heavy casualties, maybe 35 people left, counting the walking wounded. And he said I was a corporal, and he wanted to talk to a corporal. He wanted to talk to an officer. We had 2 alive, and both of them were badly wounded. I drugged my radio, because I had the only radio left, and I drugged my radio up to him and let him talk to the regimental commander, and he told him to make one final attempt to take his objective. And the company commander said, "Yes, sir." And he looked up the hill, and for some reason, I heard somebody say, "I'll take him up for you, Captain," and I realized it was me. I tried to put my hand over my mouth, but it was too late. I let the cat out of the bag. And he said, "How are you going to do it, Ron?" And I said, "The only way I know is straight in shooting, Captain." And he said, "You're not going to make it." I said, "Well, we'll give it a try, sir." I bundled up about 35 men and piled them up around me on this ridge line. And I told him, I said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit them right straight in, break through their trench line, and kill as many as we can." And I said, "I'll have no trouble finding out which way to go. All you got to do is follow me." And so I got the men lined up, and I said, "Let's go." And we jumped up and started moving forward. And I was moving a lot faster than them for some reason. They're supposed to stay with me, but they didn't. They was probably 15, 20 yards behind me. And somehow I got through the crossfire. They had several machine guns firing at us in different directions, plus about 200-man burp gun line, submachine guns. They were firing like the hell at us. And I got about 3 feet from the Chinese. They were in the trench in front of me, and I was on the other side of the dirt from the trench, and I looked back and I was by myself. The Chinese had knocked down every one of my men. And so, yeah, I was there, and I remember thinking to myself, you went to a lot of trouble to get here, Ron. Ain't no use wasting the whole day. So I let out a war whoop and jumped in the trench with them. And I ran out of ammunition and went back down the hill to where some of my dead and wounded was, and got some more hand grenades, a bunch of hand grenades, and some more ammunition from a carbine, and blasted my way through the Chinese again. And the whole line of them there, just blasted my way through and got in behind them and started knocking out their bunkers. I run out of ammunition again. So I went back down the hill, and I couldn't get any rifle for my carbine, any ammunition. So I just slung it on my shoulder and grabbed as many hand grenades as I could find and went tearing up there again. And I didn't even throw hand grenades, so I got in the middle of them, you know, and see no reason to waste anything because they were probably going to kill me anyhow. I found out something about that kind of combat. No use worrying about it. It's going to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. I never got wounded once with a bullet. I've had the bullet shot off of my lapel of my field jacket on both sides. I've had my helmet shot off. The bullets cold through my clothes. My pants blowed half off of me. Actually, I got wounded twice with hand grenades, but not seriously. A piece cut my hand, and another piece went through my shoulder, and nothing serious, you know. I got wounded twice before, so one time worse than that. I was just like, you know, I got hit through the shoulder, and people said, "Doesn't that bother you, Ron?" I said, "Missed my head." A lot of ways to look at being wounded. I never forgot a minute of it, I can tell you that. I can get up in front of a group of veterans and talk for an hour and a half about the Korean War and not hit the same thing twice, because there's so much happened. And, you know, when you talk about the terrain, when you talk about the enemy, talk about, you know, your people and what they had to face and what the enemy had to face. I served in the American Army in combat, the South Korean Army in combat, the Dutch unit in combat, the French Foreign Legion in combat, the French part of the United Nations that was there, and plus I served in combat with the Turks as a foot observer and infantry. I was pretty good at it. They were writing all kind of stuff about me, and I always hoped it was true. They'd say things, you know, like a New York Times would say, one-man army, fastest gun alive, you know, because I took on all these people. I served my country the best way I knew how. I served my family. I did my job with, I would say, a great deal of efficiency. I got the equivalent of the Korean Medal of Honor, their highest award. I became probably the first guy in about 100 years to get a Medal of Honor from 2 different countries, or the equivalent of it. It made me feel good. The Korean people are very, they most of them know me, you know, or know about me, and because, you know, I'm over there a lot. I've crossed the Pacific Ocean 30 times, so mostly heading for Japan and Korea. Early on, when Eisenhower became president, I was invited to his inauguration, and I've been invited to every inauguration since. Plus, in 1952, President Truman presented me the Medal of Honor. So I've been at the White House under every president since Franklin Roosevelt. Quite an interesting life, you know. People look at you different. I still get letters from all over the world. In fact, I just got one the other day. But I get them from Germany and Russia and just about any place you can think of.